The United Nations Humanitarian Coordination Office has confirmed that at least 10,000 bodies remain under the rubble in Gaza as the fear for a worsening health situation given the arrival of high temperatures increases. Panama Supreme Court accepted the candidacy of Jose Raul Molino for its organization Realizando Metas, in English, Achieving Goals, days before general elections in the country. And Venezuela commemorates 4 years since the defeat of the maritime operation called Gedeon and the heroic civic military police union. Hello, welcome to From the South. I am Irma Shelton, and from the teleSUR studios here in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. The United Nations Humanitarian Coordination Office has confirmed that at least 10,000 bodies remain under the rubble in Gaza. The arrival of high temperature raises fears of a serious health situation. Several United Nations agencies and the Palestinian government have made reference to the terrifying situation in the enclave. They claim that entire neighborhoods were destroyed in one of the most densely populated areas on the planet. In addition to the number of bodies under the rubble, they warn that there could be more than 7,500 tons of unexploded explosive, taking into account that during a brief tour, the United Nations anti-mine team found 500 kilograms in the middle of the road. In this context, the agencies urge the entry of heavy machinery to begin the removal of debris. In Palestine, the death toll rose after 3 new massacres occurred in the last 24 hours, in which Israel killed 28 people and wounded 51 others. The health authorities affirm that the total number of casualties is increasing daily due to ongoing Israeli siege that intensified as of October 7, 2023. Gates and Health Ministry affirmed that the number of martyrs so far exceeds 34,596, while the number of wounded has risen to 77,816, mostly women and children. Health authorities emphasize that those numbers does not include the 10,000 Palestinians who are under the rubble. Palestinian authorities announced reopening of Al-Fahal Hospital after its closure on March 27 due to the Israeli bombardment and siege. The health facility, which belongs to the International Red Crescent organization and is located in the city of Khan Yunis, has 100 beds and focuses on maternal and child health, basic surgical and internal medicine needs, and specialized rehabilitation services. According to the World Health Organization, only 12 of the 36 hospitals in Gaza are currently partially functioning, 6 of them in the south and 6 in the north, while 23 are not functioning at all. On Friday, human rights organizations report that in the past 72 hours, the United States government has arrested without authorization more than 2,000 university students peacefully protesting the Israeli genocide in Gaza, which is funded by their tax dollars. United States university campuses hosted peaceful demonstrations nationwide until pro-Israeli police groups and state police forces turned them into war zones. In this sense, at the University of California, 200 students were arrested in the less than 4 hours after being shot with rubber bullets and tear gas. On the other hand, at the University of Columbia, 400 people also were arrested in a violent eviction. In this regard, social activists denounced that President Joseph Biden once again privileged Israeli interests over the young people who represent the future of his country. Pro-Palestinian protesters camped out at all of Australian universities on Friday at the crack of dawn. In addition to repudiating the genocidal offensive of Tel Aviv and Washington, protesters wanted to show their solidarity with the United States university campuses. As happened in other regions worldwide, pro-Israeli demonstrators attacked them. They further demand that the authorities of those higher education centers break off all relations with Israel. At the University of Sydney, the most Asian national university, there were clashes between pro-Palestinians and pro-Israelis, but they did not escalate. The Chancellor Mark Scott said that there is room for everyone, but assured that they are working with campus security and the police.
I don't think that this movement makes Jews unsafe. I, as a Jew, do not feel unsafe marching in rallies or hanging out here. I think that making us feel unsafe is part of Israel's agenda. It's not a reflection of the reality on the ground.
For us, Columbia was first an inspiration and then a warning. An inspiration for us to set up our own camp, for us to continue to build our movement on this university, to demand our university's own divestment from Israel and cutting ties with Israeli genocide. But also now a warning that the government is willing to use quite lethal, brutal force in order to push down Palestinian protests.
Meanwhile, in Cuba, the University Student Federation, USF, will ratify on Friday its rejection of police repression against its counterparts in the United States for denouncing Israel's crimes in Palestine. The rally will be held on the steps of the University of Havana, and foreign students studying in the capital city will also be invited. The University Student Federation invite at the same time workers and all good people who feel sensitized and cannot stand one more minute of Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip. At the event, they will raise their voices forcefully in support of the noble cause of the Palestinian people and against the police repression to which American students are being subjected in solidarity with the Palestinian cause and against Israeli genocide. The French government evicted the building of the prestigious Paris Science and Letters University in the middle of a student pro-Palestinian encampment, repeating the United States' approach to student manifestations, but with less violence. Numerous police officers around the Saint-Jean Street campus where about 50 students who reject the Israeli genocide and call for a ceasefire in Gaza and the interruption of academic relations with Israel remained. The heavily armed police surrounded the campus but did not activate any aggressive device as they did on all university campuses in the United States. The repression has contributed to more university students around the world joining the protests. Now let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome from the House. On Friday, the Supreme Court of Justice of Panama declared that the candidacy of Jose Raul Molino, presidential candidate of the organization Achieving Goals, is not unconstitutional. In this sense, the president of the Supreme Court of Justice, Maria Eugenia Lopez Arias, communicates the decision after almost 4 days of deliberation. Jose Raul Molino is one of the front runners, according to the polls, for Sunday's general elections, and his nomination is to replace former President Ricardo Martinelli, who was disqualified after being sentenced to more than 10 years in prison. Molino, 65 years old, was the minister in charge of foreign affairs back in 2012. The electoral campaigns for next Sunday's presidential elections in Panama closed Thursday. According to the country's electoral board, 8 presidential candidates have been registered for the elections. On the other hand, polls show that 20% of the more than 3 million Panamanians with rights to vote are still undecided for whom to vote. Besides, president and vice president voters will also elect the deputies to the Central American Parliament and to the National Assembly, and mayors, townships, representatives, and councilmen across the country. Three days left to the general elections in Panama. Candidates formalized the closure of their political campaigns. Doubts and anxiety prevail at the onset of this Million Friday.
They frighten us because we faced their excluding model, which shows a bias against us, marginalizing us. Their outcomes are over 1 million malnourished Panamanians, over 700,000 people working informally, over 50 billion indebted.
Panamanian presidential candidate for the Popular Party, Martin Torrijos, referred to the existence of a pact between candidates brought to justice and the ongoing government.
And we have to tell him there is not going to be impunity here. Those who agree on protecting themselves by means of a consensus since they're just leaving, so that justice doesn't reach those who have committed acts of corruption, it is an agreement of impunity, and it's there, it's in this election. And those are the ones who are willing to return to power, to solve their legal affairs, their predicaments of being in acts of corruption. That is the contrast that we have today. But it is clear, look, and I thank you for the question. I am not here to cover up anything for anyone.
Venezuela commemorates on Friday 4 years since the defeat of the maritime operation called Gedeon, where a group of mercenaries aimed at assassinating President Nicolás Maduro and converting the country into a United States protectorate. In this sense, authorities of the states of La Guaira and members of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela led the commemorative event, highlighting the heroic attitude of the Civic Military Police Union. The failed operation thus to carry out a mercenary action with the agents of the administration for drug control linked to sectors of the Venezuela opposition with the intention of overthrowing President Nicolás Maduro. Precisely, the commander of the militia of the states of La Guaira, Walner Vivas, was present to remember the actions of the Venezuelan people to defend the homeland from the imperialist attack.
Today we commemorate another date of this operation in which they tried to reverse the constitutional order and overthrow the Bolivarian revolution that our supreme and eternal commander, Hugo Chavez, made with so much effort. Today's memorial is simply a remembrance of the actions of the people in police uniforms, in army uniforms, in militia uniforms, and simply dressed as people defending the homeland against this imperialist attack.
In Haiti, several political, social, and religious organizations claim that the election of the Fritz Belisard as interim prime minister was undemocratic. According to the Conference of Haitian Pastors, the April 1st agreement contemplates the participation of other civil society entities, but this principle was not respected. On the contrary, the opening of teleSUR took place in the shadows with the presence of State Department personnel. Leslie Voltaire, representative of Famille Lavalas, and members of the Presidential Council protested the decision. In the midst of these tensions, criminal bands once again imposed violence in the capital, Port-au-Prince. On Thursday, an attempted riot has been reported in La Pila prison located in San Luis Potosí in north-central Mexico. Some inmates' relatives heard detonations inside the prison. The Secretariat of Public Security insists that the incident left neither dead nor injured. Meanwhile, the head of the department, Ángel González Castillo, reported that the authorities quelled the disturbance and after taking control of the prison began a process of dialogue with the inmates. And we have a final short break coming up, but before, we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome from the House. In Serbia, on Thursday, the parliament approved a new cabinet led by Prime Minister Milos Vucevic with 152 votes in favor and 61 against. Vucevic served as Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defense. The newly elected cabinet will have 31 seats. A third of them are first-time members of the executive. After taking the oath of office, the new premier pledged to preserve the country's independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. This appointment, which is part of President Alexander Vucicic's government reshuffle, comes at a time of heightened tensions with Kosovo over administrative and political issues. In Vietnam, more than 260 hectares of forest consumed as a result of climate change-induced wildfire. Local authorities report that in the last few days, around 15 active fires have been detected in several provinces of the country. The latest fire in the northern province of Ha Hien, where the blaze consumed about 20 hectares of forest and killed 2 foresters. In this regard, the national government demands that local authorities implement efficient measures to prevent and combat fires, as well as to promote public awareness campaigns on the issue. The Colombian Air Force joined other work teams to support the extinction of the forest fire in the Isla de Salamanca Park in the northeastern part of the country. The institution provides support by making aircraft available. The deployment carried out surveillance and recognition flights over the affected region. Also, a C-14 aircraft transported professionals and specialized teams from the National Fire Department of Colombia in Bogotá to Barranquilla. The firefighting mission required the use of the Bambi bucket method suspended by helicopters, unloading 3 gallons of retardant liquid and 6,615 gallons of water. The president of the International Olympic Committee, Thomas Bach, presented on Thursday in a ceremony at the Olympic House in Lausanne, Switzerland, the Olympic refugee team that will participate in Paris 2024. Only 85 days before the start of the international multisport event to be held from July 26 to August 11, the International Olympic Committee made official the refugee team, which will be made up of 36 athletes from 11 different countries with presence in 12 sports. It will be the third time in Olympic Games that this happens, representing the more than 100 million displaced people from all over the world. It is worth noting that the Olympic refugee team will compete with its own emblem and unifying symbols that will bring together diverse athletes and give the team its own identity. On Friday in El Salvador, more than 447 athletes from 54 nations will begin the World Junior Surfing Championship, which will last until May 12. In this sense, the Minister of Tourism, Morena Valdez, assured that this event surpassed the record of 2022 edition, which was of 45 countries. On her part, she also pointed out that the event not only promotes the young talent in surfing, but also positions the Central American nations as a solid destination in high-level sports. On the other hand, the Spanish hands Odriozola, champion of the previous tournament, expressed that El Salvador has very good ways to organize this type of event. This World Championship is the 16th tournament held in the country since 2019 as part of the Surf City strategy. And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I am Irma Shelton. Thank you for watching.